I have on my desk a warranty repair. This is a HDMI port we fixed a long time ago. I've since developed a different technique for doing these Xbox HDMI ports. I kind of talked about this briefly in the longer video I had on a PS5 HDMI port, but I'm just going to kind of go over what we do now to not have these come back anymore. This is done almost 2 years ago. We warranted the work lifetime on these, so there was an issue. Basically, the legs kind of came out on this. I'm going to switch over to the microscope really quick. I've already wicked the through holes on this. Again, we have a more thorough video with a PS5 that's like 30 minutes long. This is going to be pretty quick. We actually don't need to. We already have leaded solder on these joints. So I'm just going to touch these up really quick. But essentially, you know, I'm just going to show you kind of what the board should look like before you set these. I want to get some solder on these little front legs too. Before, what we do is just kind of ignore these and then just solder the you know, the hand pins on the back basically, or solder these the actual thinner like data pins for the port. I'm gonna add some solder to these now. Actually, I kind of want like a big glob on there so it'll actually bond to the port. And then the issue with a lot of the replacement ports for the Xbox Series X is that the actual ground legs on this don't really bond well with solder. They're like too smooth. In fact, I can even just like, look, I'll put some flux on this. Probably directly with an iron it'll be okay, but here I have a little bit of solder on here. Just kind of doesn't stay on here well. It doesn't make a good bond. It's kind of hard to get it correctly. So what I'll do is I have a Dremel bit like this, and what we're gonna essentially do is rough up the legs. I'm gonna get that solder off that I just got on there. We'll do this to all 4 ground legs on all sides, and this will let the solder actually bond to the leg a lot better. Really just doing this sort of thing would probably be fine, and you could still avoid those front connection pins. I don't like doing warranty work, so I'm going to do those front pins too, so I really don't want to see this again. So you want it to actually be kind of rough on the outside, and this will kind of give ridges for the solder to grab onto, and it'll get a much stronger connection from this. I'll actually even take the bit and kind of really dig in on the port like this. You think of it as now there's like a, you know, grabbing spot for the solder to kind of lock in and hold the port on well, so this doesn't ever get, you know, ripped out. Doesn't need to be like a huge ridge, just kind of a little one there. And the solder will fill that gap and hold onto the leg much better. I'll do the same thing. I'll kind of rough up the perimeter of it as well on all those legs. I found this sort of like small rotary bit to be the best for this. There's definitely other Dremel bits you can use, and I'm also going to do the inside. And then what I'm going to do is add solder on these points, these little, you can kind of see a little bit of like gold looking stuff on there, but that's what's going to actually bond to these on here. I'm going to get some flux, just kind of get a little dab on all of these, get some solder. And just kind of get a bit on there. These bond better because the actual like core of the metal is exposed, so those go on pretty well, but the ground legs on these never have bonded quite well. And then for the actual board, I want, you know, I can't really solder these with a handpiece on the front, and really those main pins are gonna also melt pretty quick. So I'm gonna do this, and then I'm actually just gonna do bottom heat, essentially, on this. So kind of like how we set the port or remove it in the first place. Let me turn off my air station there. I'm gonna get off my nozzle, and I have this at 430 and 120 airflow. I'm just gonna do this. And what I mean, I guess I have a microscope camera. You could kind of look through it too, and you can get a good idea of when the actual port setting. We do. We'll do this. Even just looking at it from the side like this, I can kind of see when the port levels out. Get some more flux. And then we kind of saw that swoop. Keep applying a little bit more heat. We'll let that cool down, and this should be quite on there now. And then after this, I'm going to do the ground legs. You could, I guess, just, well, you know, having the ground post empty makes your life a lot easier for setting really any sort of connector. But now we can kind of look at it. That's still a little bit uneven. I want to apply more heat there. But right, you want it sitting, you know, nice and flat, and you want to see that those small ground legs on the front of the port are connected, because they do add quite a bit of extra stability. And then at this point, we're just going to add, just quickly, I'm going to make this kind of short and sweet. Probably still be almost 10 minutes long. Need to invest in YouTube shorts, quick videos with less information. What a treat. I'm actually going to put the nozzle, but you know, basically you do iron, and I would recommend just putting hot air on top of it as supplemental heat at a lower temperature, like 345, because really any handpiece tool is just kind of not going to be enough heat to actually, you know, set the through-hole ground leg on like a game console board all the way. It's just, they're very thick. But basically you do that on all four, and then, you know, you're done. Clean up your flux afterwards, and you should have a happy Xbox HDMI port that won't come back. Doing it with the cuts on the ground legs just makes the joint stronger inherently, and you're going to be using better solder than what's on here from the factory, which should be Kester 6337, or what are you doing? Use the good stuff. Have a great day. I hope this is helpful for someone, and we'll see you next time.